The stars looked peaceful through the main window of the spaceship Indomitable. Commander Ji-won Park sat in her captain's chair drinking coffee and reading reports. It was supposed to be a quiet patrol mission through the outer sectors. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. Then the communications panel started beeping. The sound was urgent and strange. Lieutenant Minho Choi turned from his weapons station and looked at the captain with confusion on his face. "Captain, we're getting a distress signal. It's not from any human ship." Ji-won put down her coffee cup and walked to the communication station. "Put it on screen." The hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. What Ji-won saw made her heart sink. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Its elegant robes were torn and burned. Purple blood dripped from a wound on its shoulder. The alien was shaking. "Please," the alien said in broken English. "Please help us. My name is Ambassador Thelen of the Velhari people. We are dying. Our worlds are burning. The Dravik swarm is killing everyone. We have nowhere else to turn." Dr. Hyun Kim, the ship's xenobiologist, stepped closer to the hologram. His face showed deep concern. "How many of your people are under attack?" 3 star systems. Billions of souls. The Draviks came 6 months ago. They consume everything. Our cities, our farms, our children. Thelen's voice broke. We tried to talk to them. We offered them resources, technology, anything. They only want to destroy and feed. Ji-won felt anger building in her chest. What about the Galactic Council? They're supposed to help with things like this. Thelen laughed, but it was a bitter sound with no joy in it. The council held meetings. They debated. They talked about non-interference and natural order. They did nothing while my people died. We begged them for months. They refused to act. Minho checked his tactical display. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple Velhari distress beacons across this sector. Hundreds of them. We are a peaceful people," Thelen continued. "We have technology for shields and healing. We build beautiful things and study the universe. But we never learned to fight. We don't have weapons. We don't have soldiers. The other species in the galaxy are the same. They have known peace for so long that they forgot how to defend themselves." Ji-won looked at Thelen's desperate eyes. "But you've heard that humans are different." "Yes, the whispers in the galactic networks speak of humanity. They say you are young and dangerous. They say you know war. They say you remember how to fight." Thelen moved closer to the camera. "I don't care if you are dangerous. I don't care if the council fears you. My children are dead, Commander Park. My world is burning. If you don't help us, the Velhari will be extinct in 3 months." The bridge was completely silent. Every human on board stared at the hologram. Ji-won could see the calculations running through her crew's minds. This wasn't their fight. The Velhari were aliens they had never met before. Earth was far away and had its own problems. But Ji-won remembered something her grandfather told her when she was young. He had been a soldier in the old wars on Earth. He said that the measure of a person wasn't what they did when it was easy. It was what they did when someone needed help and no one else would answer the call. Dr. Kim spoke quietly. "Captain, if what he says is true, this is genocide. We can't just ignore it," Minho added. "The Draviks sound like a threat that won't stop with the Velhari. If they're really consuming entire worlds, eventually they'll reach human space." Ji-won made her decision. She stood straight and looked directly at Thelen. "Ambassador, send us all your data on the Draviks. Ship designs, attack patterns, everything you have. We're coming to help." Thelen's eyes went wide. You will help us, truly." "Yes, but I need to talk to Earth first. This is bigger than one ship can handle." Ji-won turned to her communications officer. "Open a priority channel to Fleet Command. Tell them I need to speak with Admiral Song immediately." The communications officer nodded and started working. Within minutes, the face of Fleet Admiral Taewon Song appeared on another screen. He was an older man with gray hair and a face marked by decades of service. He looked tired but alert. "Commander Park, this better be important. Do you know what time it is on Earth?" "Sir, we've received a request for military aid from an alien species called the Velhari. They're facing extinction from an aggressive force called the Dravik swarm. I'm sending you all the data now." Admiral Song was quiet as he reviewed the information on his screen. His expression got darker with each passing second. Finally, he looked back at Ji-won. "This is bad. Really bad. These Draviks things are like locusts. They just consume and move on." He rubbed his eyes. "The council really refused to help?" "Yes, sir. They say it's against their non-interference policy." "That's not policy. That's cowardice." Admiral Song's voice was hard. Commander Park, I'm going to need a few days to bring this to the government. But between you and me, I think I can already guess what they'll say. Sir? Humanity didn't claw its way to the stars just to watch innocent people die, when we could do something about it. We might be young compared to these other species. We might be rough around the edges. But we remember what it means to stand up to bullies. Jiwan felt pride swell in her chest. What are my orders? Stay in contact with the Velari. Get every piece of intelligence you can on the Draviks. Learn their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. I'm going to start making calls. Admiral Song leaned closer to the camera. Commander, if Earth approves this mission, it won't be small. We're going to need everything we have. I understand, sir. Good, Song out. The screen went dark. Jiwan turned back to Ambassador Thelan's hologram. The alien was crying now, tears running down his blue face. Thank you, Thelan whispered. Thank you. You don't know what this means to us. Don't thank us yet, Jiwan said gently. We still have to get approval. And even if we do, we're going into a war zone. We might not be enough. You're here. You're listening. You're trying. That's more than anyone else has done. Thelan wiped his eyes. If humanity comes to our aid, the Velhari will never forget. We will owe you everything. Jiwan looked at her crew. She saw Minho checking his weapons systems. She saw Dr. Kim already studying the data on Dravik's biology. She saw her communications officer coordinating with other human ships in the area. Her crew was ready. She thought about what was coming. War in alien space against an enemy they had never seen. Many humans might die. It would be dangerous and terrible, but it was also right. Ambassador Thelan, Jiwan said firmly, you called for help. Humanity is going to answer. Get your people ready. We're coming with fire and steel. Earth's moon hung bright above the military command center. Inside the underground facility, Admiral Taewan Song stood before a massive table covered with holographic displays. Around him sat the representatives of 15 nations, all members of the United Earth Defense Coalition. Their faces showed different emotions. Some looked worried. Others looked angry. A few looked eager. Let me make this clear, said the delegate from the European Union. You want us to send our military forces across the galaxy to fight in someone else's war? A war that has nothing to do with Earth? Admiral Song touched a button. The hologram changed to show images from the Velhari worlds, cities burning, bodies in the streets, children crying over dead parents. The room went quiet. This is what the Dravik swarm does, Song said coldly. They arrived at the first Velhari world 6 months ago. The population was 3 billion. Now it's 300 million and dropping every day. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They consume and destroy, then move to the next world. The delegate from the African Union spoke up. It's horrible, yes. But the galaxy is full of species with advanced technology. Why is this our problem? Because those advanced species won't do anything, Song replied. The Galactic Council has refused to act. They're so peaceful, so comfortable, that they've forgotten how to defend the weak. The Velhari came to us because we're the only ones who remember what it means to fight. A general from the Asian Alliance leaned forward. If these Draviks are as dangerous as you say, won't they eventually reach human space? Yes. Intelligence suggests they consume a star system every 2 to 3 years. At their current rate of expansion, they'll reach our colonies in approximately 15 years. Song highlighted the projected expansion path. We can fight them now while they're focused on the Velhari, or we can wait until they're at our doorstep and much stronger. The room erupted in discussion. Some argued about costs, others worried about casualties. A few questioned whether humanity should involve itself in alien affairs at all. Then the American delegate stood up. She was an older woman named General Hayes who had fought in the colonial wars. Her voice cut through the noise. I'm going to tell you all something you already know, but don't want to admit. The galaxy thinks we're barbaric. They think we're violent and dangerous. You know what? They're right. Humans are good at war. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know violence in a way these peaceful aliens never will. She pointed at the images of burning Velhari cities. But that violence, that capacity for war, it's not just for destruction. It's also for protection. My grandfather fought in World War II. He used to say that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Well, here we are. Evil is triumphing. Are we going to do nothing? The room was silent now. Everyone stared at General Hayes. These Velhari people asked for help. They're dying. and we have the power to stop it. If we turn our backs now, what does that say about humanity? That we only care about ourselves? That we'll let billions die because it's not our problem? She shook her head. I didn't join the military to stand by while innocents are slaughtered. I vote we go in with everything we have. One by one, the other delegates began to nod. Within 30 minutes, the vote was unanimous. Earth would send an expeditionary force to aid the Velhari. Admiral Song felt relief wash over him. Thank you. I'll begin preparations immediately. We'll need ships, troops, and supplies. You'll have them, General Hayes said. How long until you can deploy? 72 hours if we work around the clock. Then get to work, Admiral, and Song. Bring our people home safe. I'll do my best, ma'am. The next 3 days were chaos. At Mars Station Omega, the largest military facility in human space, ships began gathering. Cruisers and destroyers arrived from Earth. Dreadnoughts came from the outer colonies. Supply vessels hauled ammunition, fuel, and food. Colonel Una Bay watched her troops board the transport ships. The Orbital Drop Division was humanity's elite ground force. They specialized in jumping from orbit directly into combat zones. Her soldiers wore heavy powered armor and carried weapons designed to punch through tank armor. Colonel, said one of her sergeants, a woman named Yunji Kwan. The troops are asking questions. They want to know what we're really up against. Una pulled up the intelligence reports on her datapad. The Draviks are insectoid warriors. They're strong, fast, and completely fearless. They don't feel pain the way we do, and they never retreat unless ordered. The Velhari tried to fight them with defensive weapons and failed, but we're not the Velhari, Yunji said with a grim smile. No, we're not. Una looked at her sergeant. Make sure every soldier understands this is voluntary. Anyone who wants to stay behind can do so with no shame. We're going into hell and not everyone will come back. I'll pass the word. But Colonel, I don't think anyone's going to stay behind. The troops are angry. They've seen the footage of what the Draviks are doing. They want to hit back, Una nodded. She understood that anger. She felt it too. In the engineering bays, Chief Engineer Sung-Ho Lim worked on retrofitting civilian ships with military weapons. A cargo hauler became a missile platform. A mining ship gained railgun batteries. Every vessel that could fight would fight. Dr. Hyun Kim coordinated with Velhari scientists through quantum communication links. They shared everything they knew about the Draviks. Biology, behavior, tactics. Dr. Kim studied it all, looking for weaknesses. They rely on overwhelming numbers, he reported to Admiral Song. Individual Draviks warriors aren't particularly smart. They follow pheromone signals from commanders. If we can disrupt those signals, we can create confusion in their ranks. Good work, Doctor. Keep digging. Anything you can give our soldiers will save lives. The fleet grew larger each hour. 200 warships gathered at Mars Station. They didn't look like the elegant vessels of other alien species. Human ships were angular and brutal. Every surface bristled with weapons. Armor plating covered their hulls. They were built for one purpose, to fight and win. Each ship received a name. Thermopylae, Stalingrad, Normandy, Incheon, Gallipoli. Names of famous battles from Earth's history. Reminders of humanity's long, bloody experience with war. On the third day, Admiral Song stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dreadnought Thermopylae. Around him, 200 captains waited for his orders. He opened a fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Song. In a few minutes, we're going to jump to the Velhari home system. We're going there to stop the Dravik swarm from committing genocide. Many of you are asking why we should risk human lives for aliens we've never met. I'll tell you why. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Because it's right. Because when innocent people cry for help and everyone else looks away, someone has to answer. Because the measure of humanity isn't just in what we build or discover, it's in what we're willing to sacrifice to protect others. Song looked at the faces of his crew, young and old, experienced veterans and fresh recruits, all of them ready. The galaxy thinks we're dangerous. They think we're violent. Maybe they're right. But today, we're going to show them something else. We're going to show them that human strength isn't just for ourselves. It's for anyone who needs it. Today we show the galaxy what humanity really means. He raised his fist. All ships prepare for jump. Let's go save some lives. The fleet activated their faster-than-light drives. In a flash of blue light, 200 human warships vanished from Mars space. They were heading to war. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Velhari home system. What they saw made even experienced veterans pause in shock. 7 orbital stations hung in space around the beautiful blue and green planet. Each station was home to millions of Velhari civilians. But now they were under attack. Dozens of massive organic ships swarmed around the stations like insects around food. The Dravix bioships were alive, pulsing with red light and spitting streams of corrosive plasma at the Velhari shields. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Deho Shin from his fighter cockpit. He was part of the first wave of interceptors launched from the carrier Midway. There must be hundreds of those things. Admiral Song watched the tactical display on his bridge. The Dravix had at least 60 capital bioships and countless smaller attack craft. The Velhari station's shields were failing. In some places, boarding pods had already attached to the hull like parasites. "Communications, send a message to the Dravix fleet," Song ordered. "Tell them to withdraw immediately or face destruction." The communications officer worked for a moment, then looked up with confusion. "Sir, we're getting a response. It's just laughter." A rough, clicking voice came over the speakers. It was the Dravix hive commander, a creature called Skreth. "Weak creatures come to die. Good, we are hungry. Your flesh will feed our young." Song felt his jaw tighten. He had tried diplomacy. Now there was only one option left. "All ships, this is Song, weapons free. Show these things what happens when they threaten innocence." The human fleet opened fire. 200 warships unleashed their fury at once. Railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. Each round carried as much kinetic energy as a small nuclear weapon. The slugs punched through Dravix bioships like bullets through wet paper. Explosions blossomed across the battlefield. Missile salvos followed. Hundreds of smart missiles tracked individual targets, overwhelming the Dravix point defenses. The organic weapons tried to shoot them down but couldn't keep up. Missiles slammed into bioships and secondary explosions rippled through their living hulls. The Dravix were stunned. They had never faced an enemy like this before. The Velhari only defended. Other species they had encountered either fled or died quickly. But these humans attacked with calculated violence. Commander Skreth screamed orders to his fleet. "All ships, swarm formation.
Board their vessels!"
We will tear them apart from the inside." Dozens of boarding pods launched from the Dravix bioships. They were fast, designed to punch through hulls and dump warrior drones inside enemy ships. Several pods hit the destroyer Incheon. On board the Incheon, alarms blared throughout the ship. Sergeant Yoonji Kwan grabbed her rifle and her squad of Marines. They ran to the breach point where the boarding pods had penetrated the hull. "Lock and load," Yoonji shouted. "Remember your training. These things don't feel pain, so aim for critical mass. Put them down and keep them down." The boarding pod doors exploded open. Dravix warriors poured out. They were nightmare creatures, each one standing 7 feet tall with 6 limbs. 4 arms ended in razor-sharp claws. 2 legs drove them forward at frightening speed. Their heads were mostly mouth filled with rows of teeth designed to tear through metal. The Dravix expected to find frightened prey. Instead, they found armored humans with weapons ready. Yoonji's squad opened fire. Their assault rifles spat armor-piercing rounds. The first wave of Dravix warriors shredded under the gunfire. But more came behind them. "The corridor became a killing zone. Grenades!" someone shouted. Explosions rocked the hallway. Dravix body parts flew everywhere. Purple blood splattered the walls. A warrior got past the gunfire and slashed at Yoonji. Its claw scraped across her armor but didn't penetrate. She jammed her rifle under its jaw and fired. The warrior's head exploded. "They're tough, but they're stupid," Yoonji yelled. "They just charged straight ahead. Use that against them." The Marines fell back to a reinforced position and set up overlapping fields of fire. When the next wave of warriors charged, they ran directly into a meat grinder. Within 10 minutes, the boarding attempt was over. Dead Dravix filled the corridor. Not a single human had died. Reports came in from other ships. Every boarding attempt had failed. The Dravix were learning a hard lesson. Humans fought back, and they fought back hard. In space, Lieutenant Shin led his fighter squadron through the chaos. His small craft danced between the massive bioships, too fast for their weapons to track. He found weak points in their organic hulls and hammered them with precision fire. "Red Leader, this is Red 3. These things have central nerve clusters near their reactor cores. Hit those and they die fast." "Copy that, Red 3. All fighters target the nerve clusters." "Light them up." The fighter squadron swarmed the Dravix bioships like angry bees. They were small and vulnerable individually, but together they were devastating. One by one, the massive bioships began to die. Commander Skreth watched his fleet being destroyed and couldn't understand it. His warriors were fearless. His ships were powerful. How were these weak creatures winning? The answer was simple. The Draviks relied on overwhelming force and biological toughness. They had never needed strategy because no one fought back effectively. But humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They understood tactics, combined arms, and the brutal mathematics of combat. The Thermopylae closed in on the Dravik's flagship. Admiral Song spoke calmly into his communications link. Target the enemy command ship. All forward batteries fire. The Dreadnought's main guns fired in sequence. Each shot was a hammer blow. The Dravik's flagship shuddered under the impacts. Its organic armor cracked and split. Internal systems ruptured. The massive bioship began to list to one side, dying. Commander Skreth's last transmission was a scream of rage and disbelief. Then his ship exploded, taking him and 1,000 warriors with it. The remaining Dravik's fleet broke. Without their commander's pheromone signals, the warriors became confused. Some tried to flee. Others attacked each other in their panic. The human fleet methodically hunted down the survivors. 4 hours after the battle began, it was over. The Dravik's assault force was destroyed. Only a handful of bioships escaped to carry word back to the Hive territories. Admiral Song allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Then he opened a channel to the Velhari stations. This is Fleet Admiral Song of the United Earth Defense Coalition. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We're standing by to provide assistance to your wounded. The response came from Ambassador Thelon. His voice was filled with wonder and something like fear. Admiral, we watched the battle. We saw what you did. We have never seen anything like it. What are you? Song thought about the question. How could he explain humanity to someone who had never known war? How could he describe a species that had learned violence so well that it became second nature? We're the ones who came when you called, Song finally said. And we're not leaving until this is finished. The Draviks will be back with more ships. We need to prepare for the next attack. Thelon was quiet for a moment. Admiral, you saved millions of lives today. The Velhari owe you everything. Whatever you need, we will provide it. What I need, Song said firmly, is information on where the Draviks are based. If we want to end this threat, we need to cut off the head of the snake. You mean to attack their home territory? Yes, it's the only way to stop them permanently. There was a long pause. Finally, Thelon spoke again. His voice trembled. I will give you everything we know. But Admiral, please understand. The Dravik's Hive territories contain billions of warriors. What you fought today was just a small raiding force. Song looked at his fleet, battered but intact. His people were ready. They had come here to stop genocide, and they would finish the job no matter the cost. Then we'll need to hit them harder. Send me those coordinates, Ambassador. Humanity is going to war. The war room aboard the Thermopylae was packed with officers. Holographic displays showed the Dravik's home territories. 3 conquered star systems centered around a planet called Hive Prime. Admiral Song stood at the head of the table, his face grim. Intelligence reports confirm that Hive Prime is their breeding world, Song explained. The Dravik's queens spawn new warriors there by the millions. As long as that planet exists, the swarm will keep growing and attacking. Colonel Yuna Bay studied the tactical display. Sir, the orbital defenses around Hive Prime are massive. Biological fortresses, weapons platforms, and hundreds of ships. A direct assault will cost us dearly. I know. That's why we're not just going in with brute force. Song gestured to a figure in the corner. Commander Jeho Wan will lead a special operations team to the surface while the fleet engages their defenses. Commander Wan stepped forward. He was a quiet man with cold eyes and a reputation for completing impossible missions. My team will infiltrate Hive Prime and plant seismic charges at key geological weak points. The planet sits on an unstable core. If we trigger the right chain reaction, the whole world will tear itself apart. A captain from the destroyer Soul raised his hand. Admiral, the Galactic Council is sending messages. They're demanding we stop. They say attacking a species' homeworld is a crime against civilization. Song's expression hardened. The Council had their chance to stop the Draviks peacefully. They did nothing. Now we'll do what needs to be done. If they want to charge me with war crimes after this is over, fine. I'll face those charges knowing I saved billions of lives. Dr. Somin Han, a xenopsychologist, spoke up. Admiral, I've been studying Dravik's communication patterns. They use a hive mind network based on pheromone signals. If we can jam those signals, their warriors will lose coordination. It won't stop them, but it will make them easier to fight. Good. Implement the jamming technology across the fleet. Any edge we can get, we'll take it. Ambassador Thelen had requested to attend the briefing. He stood near the back of the room looking small and afraid. I must ask again, Admiral. Are you certain this is necessary? Destroying an entire world, even a Dravik's world. It seems so extreme. Song turned to face him. Ambassador, how many Velhari have died in the last 6 months? 2,700,000,000, Thelen whispered. And how many will die if we don't stop the Draviks here? Thelen had no answer. War is ugly, Song continued. It's brutal and terrible, and sometimes the choices we make haunt us forever. But the alternative, letting the Draviks continue killing, that's worse. I didn't come here to feel good about myself. I came here to stop a genocide. The briefing ended. Ships began final preparations. In the hangar bay, Commander Wan assembled his special operations team. 10 of humanity's best soldiers, each one a veteran of countless dangerous missions. This is a one-way trip until the mission is complete, Wan told them. We'll be surrounded by hostile warriors on a planet filled with enemies. If anyone wants to back out, now's the time. No one moved. Good. Check your equipment. We drop in 8 hours. The human fleet jumped into the Dravik's home system ready for war. What they found exceeded even their worst expectations. The orbital space around Hive Prime was packed with defenses. Massive biological fortresses that could destroy ships with a single shot. Hundreds of bioships patrolling in tight formations. And everywhere, small attack craft swarming like angry insects. Admiral Song looked at the display and felt a cold weight in his stomach. But he had come too far to turn back now. All ships, battle formation. Prepare for heavy resistance, and he paused, then added, for the Velhari, for humanity, for everyone who can't fight for themselves. The fleet advanced. The Battle of Hive Prime began. The Dravik's defenses opened fire. Plasma streams and biological missiles filled space. Human shields flared under the impacts. The destroyer Busan took a direct hit and exploded, killing everyone aboard in an instant. But the human fleet pushed forward. Railguns hammered the biological fortresses. Nuclear missiles cracked their organic armor. Slowly, painfully, the human ships carved a path through the defenses. While the fleet fought in orbit, Commander Wan's team descended to the planet's surface in a stealth insertion craft. They punched through the atmosphere and landed in a massive hive structure that stretched for miles in every direction. Ambassador Thelen had volunteered to guide them. He wore borrowed human armor that was too large for his thin frame. Wan had tried to convince him to stay behind, but Thelen insisted. My people need to understand what humans do, Thelen had said. I need to see it with my own eyes. Now, as they moved through corridors filled with Dravik's warriors, Thelen began to understand. The human soldiers moved with deadly efficiency. They cleared rooms with ruthless precision. When warriors charged them, the soldiers cut them down without hesitation. Thelen watched a young soldier named Private Minjin Kang face down 3 warriors at once. The boy couldn't have been more than 20 years old, but he fought like a demon. He killed all 3 warriors and barely looked winded afterward. How can you do this? Thelen asked quietly. How can you be so calm while taking lives? Minjin looked at him with tired eyes. Because if we don't, more innocent people die. It's that simple. The team fought deeper into the hive. Dr. Han's jamming technology worked perfectly. The warriors attacked in disorganized waves instead of coordinated swarms. It made them easier to kill, but there were so many of them. Commander Wan led them to the first target site, a massive chamber where the planet's crust was thinnest. They planted seismic charges and moved on. 4 more sites, 4 more battles through countless warriors. Thelen saw a human soldier take a claw strike that would have killed a Velhari instantly. The man just grunted, sealed his suit with emergency foam, and kept fighting. Their resilience was terrifying. Finally, they reached the central breeding chamber. It was enormous, filled with hundreds of Dravik's queens spawning new warriors. The sight was horrific. Living walls pulsed with organic machinery. Warriors emerged from birthing sacks fully grown and immediately turned to attack the intruders. Plant the last charges, one ordered. We're leaving in 3 minutes. The soldiers worked fast while fighting off waves of newly born warriors. Thelen noticed something strange. The warriors were protecting the queens, throwing themselves at the humans even though they knew they would die. They're defending their mothers, Thelen realized. Even the Draviks feel something for their young. One heard him and paused for just a second. but he activated the charges anyway. Doesn't change what needs to be done. Move out! They fought their way back to the extraction point. The charges were on timers now, counting down. In orbit, the fleet had broken through the last line of defenses but had paid a terrible price. 20 ships destroyed, thousands dead. The dreadnought Thermopylae was heavily damaged. Half her weapons were offline. But she held her position, buying time for One's team to escape. Extraction craft inbound, One's pilot reported. 30 seconds. The ground began to shake. The first charges had detonated. Cracks spread through the hive structure. Warriors abandoned the fight and ran in panic as their world began to die. The extraction craft grabbed One's team and boosted for orbit at maximum speed. Behind them, Hive Prime tore itself apart. The seismic charges had triggered massive geological instabilities. Fault lines split open. Lava erupted from the planet's core. In less than an hour, the breeding world of the Dravik swarm would be gone. Admiral Song watched it happen from his damaged bridge. He felt no joy, only grim satisfaction that the job was done. Around him, his crew was silent. The Dravik's fleet, seeing their homeworld dying, broke and fled. Without Hive Prime and their queens, the swarm was finished as a major threat. Song opened a fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Song, mission accomplished. All ships begin recovery operations and prepare for jump to Velhari space. Let's go home. As the human fleet limped away from the dying planet, Ambassador Thelen sat in Commander Wan's ship and wept. He wept for the Draviks despite everything they had done. He wept for the human soldiers who had died, and he wept because he finally understood what humanity was. They were protectors who would do terrible things to defend the innocent. They were warriors who would carry the burden of violence so others wouldn't have to. They were the ones who answered when everyone else stayed silent. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Hive Prime. Commander Jiwon Park stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Indomitable and looked out at the Velhari home system. The orbital stations were under repair. New construction filled the space where Dravik's attacks had left scars. Life was returning to normal slowly, but nothing would ever truly be the same. Ambassador Thelen approached and stood beside her. He looked older now, carrying weight that hadn't been there before. Commander Park, thank you for meeting with me. Of course, Ambassador. How are your people doing? Rebuilding, learning, changing. Thelen sighed. We held a memorial yesterday for the 2 billion we lost. My daughter's name was on that wall. She died in the first attack 6 months ago. Jiwon felt a pang of sympathy. I'm sorry, don't be. If not for humanity, everyone's name would have been on that wall. Thelen looked at her with his large, dark eyes. You know what troubles me most, Commander? I watched your soldiers fight. I saw the efficiency, the skill, the absolute ruthlessness, and I realized something. You've done this before, not against the Draviks, but against each other. Jiwon didn't deny it. Yes, humanity has been at war with itself for thousands of years. We've killed each other in numbers that would shock you. It's our shame and our survival trait all at once. But you also came to save us. You risked everything for strangers. Thelen shook his head in wonder. I'm writing a paper about humanity. I call it the paradox of human compassion. You feel deeply, which makes you fight fiercely. You understand suffering, which makes you determined to prevent it. The very violence that other species fear is the tool you use to protect the innocent. That's a generous way to look at it, Jiwon said quietly. Some might just call us dangerous. They do. The Galactic Council is terrified of you now. They've been holding hearings. Jiwon laughed bitterly. Let me guess. They want to charge us with war crimes for destroying Hive Prime. They tried, but my people presented evidence of Dravik's atrocities. We showed them what would have happened if Earth hadn't acted. The motion was defeated. Thelen smiled slightly. Though many species still fear you, they see humans as unpredictable and violent. Maybe they're right. On Earth, Admiral Song and Colonel Bay sat before a review board in a military hearing room. Questions had been asked about the destruction of Hive Prime, about civilian casualties, about the aggressive tactics used. General Hayes, now head of the review board, finally spoke. Admiral Song, you destroyed an entire planet. Billions of Draviks died. How do you justify that? Song met her gaze without flinching. The Draviks were actively committing genocide. They had already killed billions and showed no signs of stopping. We tried communication. We tried warning shots. Nothing worked. The only way to stop them permanently was to eliminate their ability to spawn new warriors. Some people are calling you a war criminal. Some people always will. That's the burden of command. I made the hard choice so others wouldn't have to. Song's voice was steady. If I could go back and find a better way, I would. But given the same circumstances, I'd make the same choice again. The board was silent for a long moment. Finally, General Hayes nodded. This review board finds that Admiral Song and all personnel under his command acted appropriately given the circumstances. No charges will be filed. Dismissed. As they left the hearing room, Colonel Bay walked beside Song. Sir, did you mean what you said? About making the same choice? Every word. What about you, Colonel? Having second thoughts? Bay thought about the soldiers she had lost. Good men and women who would never go home. No, sir, we saved the Velhari. That matters. The nightmares will fade eventually. The people we saved will live. That's enough. In a small apartment on Earth, Sergeant Yoonji Kwan sat with her family. Her children asked her about the war, about the aliens, about what it was like to fight in space. She answered their questions but kept the worst parts to herself. They didn't need to know about the blood in the corridors or the faces of warriors she had killed. Her husband knew, though. He saw it in her eyes when she thought no one was looking. He held her hand across the table, and she squeezed back gratefully. Was it worth it? He asked softly when the children were in bed. Yes, Yoonji said without hesitation. The Velhari have a future now. Children who will grow up safe. That's worth fighting for. Lieutenant Daeho Shin received a medal for his actions during the Battle of Hive Prime. His fighter squadron had taken down 12 enemy bioships, but when he looked at the medal, all he could think about were the pilots in his squadron who hadn't come home. He visited their families and told them their loved ones died as heroes. It was true, but it didn't make it easier. War never was. Dr. Hyun Kim published his study of Dravik's biology and tactics. Other scientists across Earth read it and understood. The galaxy was full of species that had forgotten how to defend themselves. Humanity's knowledge of warfare, terrible as it was, might be needed again. The surviving Draviks, leaderless and broken without their queens, surrendered to a joint human-Velhari peacekeeping force. They were offered a choice: integration into the galactic community under strict oversight, or isolation in designated territories. Most chose integration. The younger Draviks especially seemed eager to leave their violent past behind. They learned from humans and Velhari alike. Some even became productive members of galactic society. Commander Ji-won Park received orders to resume patrol duties. The Indomitable was now designated as a peacekeeping vessel, responding to threats across human space and beyond. As she reviewed the orders, her communications officer approached. Captain, we're receiving multiple distress calls from across the sector. Pirates attacking a mining colony, a disease outbreak on a frontier world, a territorial dispute between two minor species. Ji-won looked at the list and felt tired. The war with the Draviks was over, but the galaxy still needed help. It would always need help. Pick the most urgent one and set course, she ordered. Later, alone in her quarters, Ji-won thought about what humanity had become. Before the Draviks War, Earth was just another species trying to find its place among the stars. Now they were something else. Other species built beautiful things and studied the universe. They had art and philosophy and science. Humanity had those things too. But they also had something the galaxy had forgotten: the willingness to fight when fighting was necessary. She remembered something her grandfather had told her, the same thing she had thought about when Ambassador Thelen first called for help. The measure of a person wasn't what they did when it was easy, but what they did when someone needed help and no one else would answer. Humanity had answered. With fire and steel, with courage and sacrifice, they had answered. The galaxy feared humans now. They whispered about human violence and brutality, but they also whispered about something else, that if you were in trouble, if you needed help desperately, you called the humans. Because humans would come. Ji-won received a personal message from Admiral Song. It was brief. Commander Park, your actions started this chain of events. You heard the plea and convinced me to act. The Velhari are alive because of you. Well done. Expect more missions like this in the future. The galaxy needs protectors, and we're it. She smiled and deleted the message. Then she pulled up the star charts and looked at the vastness of space. Somewhere out there, someone was in trouble. Someone needed help that wasn't coming. But it would come. Humanity would make sure of it. The Indomitable jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward the next crisis. Behind it, the Velhari system continued to rebuild. The dead were mourned. The living looked to the future with hope. And across the galaxy, other species began to understand a new truth. There were builders and scientists, philosophers and artists, peaceful races content to study the stars. And then there was humanity, the young, violent species that remembered what it meant to fight. The species that would bring fire and steel to defend the helpless. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Mess with the peaceful and you might face diplomacy. Mess with the helpless and you would face humanity. And humanity always answered.